Hello my dreamy-eyed friends, and welcome back to my channel where we do so much more than daydream. This is the second video in our Discovering the Dream Life workshop series that I have created to help you figure out exactly what your dream life looks like in detail. This is the second video in the series where we're going to be focusing on what does our ideal dream home look like? Where is it located? And what are we filling it with? If you missed the first video in the series, go ahead and check it out. I'm going to link it up here for you. We did a wellness wheel together where we looked at our life as a whole, we looked at every area of our life, and we rated it on a scale of 0 to 5 on how close it is to our dream life. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and complete that exercise and then meet us back over here.
This is how this workshop is going to work. We start by assessing how our lives are currently, so we know where we need to improve. Then we're going to look closely at each area of our lives and discover what we need to add or change to bring it to ideal dream status. These areas are home, physical health, mental health, fun, novelty, spirituality, finances, passion, community, and family. Each module will focus on one of these areas. Once we know exactly what we want and need, we'll make a game plan. A game plan to get from here to there. Let's begin Module 2, Ideal Home. In this module, we'll figure out exactly what your dream home looks like.
So welcome guys to the Dream Life Workshop. I am so excited. This is the first area of our life that we are going to be looking at in detail. So we're going to be looking at home. This is honestly the easiest area of our life to look at, and I think it's also one of the funnest because when you think about what your dream life is, I feel like the first thing we usually think of is our homes, like our dream home, right? Our dream car, like those are the first two things that we think of. And Personally, I include our car with our home because my grandpa always told me that if you have to choose between paying your mortgage and paying your car bill, that you should pay your car bill because you can't drive your home, but you can live in your car. So anyway, there's a little piece of advice for you. But dream home, it's a phrase that we hear a lot. I mean, it usually refers to a huge mansion with a cute pool boy. Doesn't sound too bad to me, but maybe that's not your style. We have to figure out what you want. And there are so many possibilities. You could live in a mansion by the sea, or you could live in a high-rise apartment in New York City, or an off-grid cabin in the woods, or you could live in your car and drive it all around America and travel. But the thing is, our homes are more than where we live. Right? It's more than the actual structure that we live in. Because you could decide, you know what, I really want to live in, I want the American dream. I want to live in a 3-bedroom house with a white picket fence. Awesome. Cool. You narrowed it down. But where? Do you like the city that you live in? Do you like the neighborhood? Do you hate it? Do you hate where you live? I mean, do you feel like you need to move to find somewhere that maybe you belong more, where you could thrive better than where you are now? The location is just as important as the structure. Now, the third part of this is what we fill our homes with. Our home is an extension of us. It should be our safe place. It should be our den. It should feel like us. So what we fill our homes with is just as important. And this is things like interior design style, furniture, the way that you arrange your home, how you can arrange it better to help it function best for you. Like, for example, we don't have to follow the rules. If you live in a 1-bedroom apartment, who says you have to put the bed in the bedroom? Like, why couldn't you put the bed in the living room and live studio style? And then that bedroom that you have, you can make it up to be a complete walk-in dressing room. Like dressing room makeup area. That sounds awesome. Once you realize that there really are no rules to how you live and that you get to decide exactly what you want, that's when it gets fun. But that brings me to the last part of this, is if you are not living in your dream home, you're not living in your dream location, the current place that you live is just not living up to your standards at all, you need to figure out how you can make your current home better for you in the meantime. So my job is to ask you a whole bunch of questions to get your wheels turning, to get you thinking about what it is that you actually want. Your job is to think about them thoughtfully and thoroughly. Now, there may be some questions that I ask you and your first response is, I have no clue. I have no clue. And that's okay. That's actually really good because that means that we're hitting on an important part of your life that you haven't thought about. Feel free to pause the video in between questions to give yourself enough time to think about them and to write a thorough answer. And say you've paused the video for like 5 minutes and you still can't think of an answer, that is okay. Figuring out your life is hard and it takes time. So don't stress yourself out about it. You don't have to have it all pinned down right now. Just make a note that it's something that you need to keep thinking about. And I'm sure the answer will come to you and then you can come back and you can write it down then. You can go ahead and pause the video now and get yourself all set up. Go ahead and get your cute notebook and your feather pen and meet us back here. And when you're ready, we'll get started. Hey guys. Are you ready? I am so excited. This is one of my very favorite modules in this workshop because I love thinking about where I'm gonna live and like my dream home and like what's gonna go inside it and where I'm gonna be, and I just love it so much. So if you're not excited as I am, then sorry, but if you are, you get it. So I'm going to be asking you a whole bunch of questions. Again, feel free to pause the video in between questions because I'm probably going to go through them pretty quickly, too quickly to give you enough time to answer them. Everyone is going to need a different amount of time to think through things that maybe they haven't thought through already, and maybe you don't have an automatic answer. So pause the video, give yourself enough time to think it through, and if you can't come up with an answer, then just move on to the next one. It's okay. You'll come back to it later. So, the very first question is, are you living in your dream home? If not, what is your dream home? What structure do you want to live in? Have you thought about this before? Like, do you want to live in a house with a backyard where you can have bonfires and you can make as much noise as you want and you don't have to worry about like someone on top of you or below you? Or do you want to live in a high-rise apartment in the city, which that's always been a dream of mine. I'm just going to be transparent with you guys. I love the idea of living in like a loft style apartment with like windows, you know, all along the walls and just being able to see the twinkling lights outside and being able to just get on the elevator and go down and walk around the corner to the local coffee shop. Or maybe you want to live on a hobby farm where you have a ton of land and you can't see your neighbors, so you can just walk around naked and pet your goats. Not at the same time. I mean, you could. That's the beauty of it. You can do whatever you want when you have a bunch of land. Or maybe you want to live in a beach house. Like, you could either live in like a beachfront condo, you know, where there's like a pool and a hot tub downstairs with a Starbucks, or you like live in one of those beach houses with like a lot of your own land and you just have these big beautiful French doors that lead out onto this huge like veranda with the waves. Oh, doesn't that sound wonderful? But what kind of home do you want to live in? Again, tiny home, RV, living out of your car. Options are endless. Think about what you want. If you can't choose, Just write it all down. Write it all down. We'll work it out later, okay? Sky's the limit. If you have absolutely no idea, you've never thought of this, some things to get you thinking. If you were a character in a movie, where would you live? Okay? Like, we've all done it where we imagine ourselves as a character in a movie. Like, we've all done this, right? Like, it's not just me. Like, you know exactly what type of character you would be, right? Well, maybe depending on the day, because I'm sure each day we feel like a different type of character. But when you feel like the main character and you're at your happiest, where would that character live? Now, maybe you want to own multiple properties or live in multiple properties. That sounds great. Like, maybe you don't want to live in the same place all year round. Like, maybe you're like, hey, I want to live in the Midwest where my family lives most of the time, but when those really awful winters hit, my ass gonna be down in Florida. Think about vacation homes, right? Like, what type of vacation home would you want to own? Like, where would you want to go several times a year or every year where you have the same place that you can make memories with your family? Or maybe you're owning multiple homes so that you can rent some of them out as Airbnbs as a way of passive income. Don't worry, we're going to get back around to that during the finances module, because your girl is all about some passive income. Do you want to move? Like, maybe you've lived in the same place your whole life, but like, maybe you want to move, but you have no idea where. Or maybe you do. Where do you want to move? So if you know you want to move, but you're not sure where, my advice is to think about, ask yourself, why do you want to move? What is it that you don't like in your current location? What are you trying to get away from? Is it that the place where you live just doesn't really align with your values? Is it that the activities that you're interested in just aren't really around? Is it that maybe your passions, like the career that you want to go for, you just don't think you could get a good jump start in the area that you live in? Is it the weather? Do you just hate the weather where you are and you want to go somewhere else? Or maybe you just want a new adventure. Like, you've just been there, done that, and you're ready to move on to something new? So think about all those things that you're trying to get away from, and those are the things that you are trying to go towards. So once you know what you don't want, that kind of narrows things down on what you do want, right? So next you're gonna think about, okay, well, what do you want? Maybe you don't know exactly where those things are, but you can, if you know what you're looking for, then you can do some research on different areas and you can start to figure out, like, okay, this place, checks off all of these boxes, so maybe this would be a good place for me to move. Now, if you do want to move, and I mean, it doesn't even have to be that you want to move all the way across the country, right? But maybe you just want to move to a new neighborhood. Like, you want to move to a nicer neighborhood, or you want to move closer to the city or farther away from the city, or whatever it may be. What is holding you back? Like, maybe it's finances. Most probably, finances is a factor, right? Or credit score, or having to prove employment and things like that. But is there anything else? Now, this is a moment where you need to be really honest with yourself about what is holding you back. Like, is there any fear there? I was born and raised in South Carolina. I lived there all the way up until I was like 28 or 29 years old. And I knew from the time I was like 10 that I wanted to get out of South Carolina. And that was my goal, is I was going to leave as soon as I graduated high school. And I was going to go to New York City for college, because I knew, like, okay, well, that's where I want to be. And, I got out of high school and I was looking at colleges and I just got terrified. I was just totally terrified to move. And so I didn't. And I just kept saying, oh, I'll do it eventually. I'll do it eventually. And I don't want to say I wasted time, because I'm glad that I was around my younger sisters, for the time that I was, but I should have moved sooner. And I feel like I have missed out on a lot of years of living in a location where I could really thrive. And I don't want that to happen to you. And I think that this happens to a lot of people, and you really need to get down to the bare bones. Like, look at yourself dead in the eyes, and just ask yourself, like, what is really keeping me from living in my dream location? And planning to move is a big thing. It takes time. You have to save money. You have to research on where it is that you want to go. And probably it's smart to take a trip there first to make sure that it's, all that you thought it would be. So, having a plan of action and taking time towards, giving yourself a lot of time to work towards that is totally fine. You can just pack your bag, hop in the car, and just, drive down the interstate until you run out of gas, and then that's just where you're going to live. Or you can put in the time and effort to really make sure that that's where you want to be. So, what is holding you back? Okay, so we've thought about the structure, right? The structure that we want to live in, be it house, apartment, condo, car, RV, whatever that may be. We've also thought about location, right? The community that you're living in, if it is right for you, if it's the best for you to thrive in. But now let's think about what's on the inside of our home. And this is also super exciting. So how can we express ourselves, our identity, through what we're placing inside of our homes? And not just what you're putting inside your home, but how you're arranging it. It's just as important. So what does the inside of your dream home look like? What kind of vibe do you want? So this is where you're going to be thinking about, okay, what type of interior design style do I want inside my home? Do you want modern sleek? Or do you want country farm chic? Or do you want bohemian jungle? Or do you want to go completely minimal and clean looking? There are so many options, you guys. If you have no idea, I suggest going on Pinterest. I love Pinterest, not a sponsor. And literally look up interior home design or home design styles. And they'll all come up. All of them will come up, and you can just kind of scroll through and make a Pinterest board for what your ideal home looks like, and just go through and add ooh, I like this kind of furniture, or I like these kinds of color palettes for my home. I like the way that they have arranged this furniture. I like this kind of decor. I like these types of gadgets that they have in their home. Think about what is important to you. Is it more important that your space is filled with little trinkets and mementos from all of your travels around the world, or sentimental items that just remind you of all of the people in your life? Or is it more important to you to live in a really clean and fresh looking home that smells of cotton or linen, and when you walk in, it's like a complete breath of fresh air? What gadgets would you want in your home? So think about, again, what's important to you. Maybe you're like me and you love coffee, okay? I love coffee so much, and I don't really want to have to go to Starbucks or Caribou every morning. It's fun, but I think that it would be even more fun to be able to make my own coffee and be creative with how I'm making it. So in my dream home, I would want a really fancy coffee setup. So I'm talking espresso machine, all of those cute little ice trays where I can make spherical ice cubes or butterfly ice cubes. I would want a little milk frother. I would want really cute really cute glass sets to actually pour the coffee into, and maybe some fun straws. That is something that I definitely want in my dream home. So think about the things that you want. Like, what kind of activities do you want to do? Like, do you want to paint? Like, maybe you want to have an entire room that's set up as an art studio. Or maybe you want to have like floor to ceiling bookshelves where you kind of have your own library with like one of those rolling ladders. So think about what your hobbies are and how you can translate them into your home. So remember when I asked you if you feel like you need to choose? Maybe you don't need to. If you can't choose between the apartment in the city and the beachfront property, then maybe you shouldn't. I am a firm believer that your dream life is completely possible no matter how crazy pie in the sky your goals are. Okay, so if you want to live in one place for 3 months and then go to your beachfront condo for the next 3 months and somewhere else for another 3 months, go for it. Write it down and work towards it, how you can make that happen. Maybe you don't want to live anywhere at all. Maybe you just want to like live out of your suitcase and you want to travel. And I'm not even going to say if you're young and you want to travel, go do it because this is the only time you can, because that's complete bogus. If you want to live out of your suitcase and travel around, you can do it. I don't care how old you are. But I will say that there are certain phases of your life that are better for certain things than others. So like if you're already in the phase of your life where you have young children, then living out of a suitcase may not be the best thing for your life right now, right? That doesn't mean it can't ever happen. Like, wait till them suckers move out of your house and then go and travel. If you haven't had kids yet and you know that you'll want to in the future, and your life is just kind of wide open right now and you want to travel, then ask yourself, why not now? And if you say finances, I'm literally going to punch you in the face. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. When we get to the finances module, you will tell that I'm very passionate about not letting finances get in the way of living your life. And we'll go through the whole thing, but don't let finances be the reason that you don't travel. There are so many ways to travel. There are so many websites out there for this exact type of thing. You could go through the Workaway Foundation, which is basically where you volunteer abroad in a countless number of countries to choose from. You work with a family or with an organization in exchange for free room and board. Or you can go couch surfing, where you go and you can stay on random people's couches, which is a lot less creepy than it sounds, I promise. You can be a professional house sitter, where you go to people's vacation homes that they're not in for weeks or months at a time, and you can stay there for free in exchange for watering their plants or like walking their dogs. There are so many ways to get out there and to travel without having to spend a lot of money. And if that is just like getting yourself all riled up and excited and getting your juices flowing, and if it's making your heart soar, then that's what you need to do. The key is to research. There are an endless amount of options out there. You just have to do your research. Okay, so this next part is maybe not as fun to think about, but is equally important. We need to talk about where you're currently living. So most of us aren't living in our current dream homes, but maybe you are. Maybe you finally bought the house that you've been wanting, but the inside is just not matching your vibe, right? Maybe you bought a fixer-upper and it's going to take a lot of sweat and elbow grease to get it like where you want it to be. But no matter where you're living right now, it needs to be a comfortable and safe space for you to live in. You can't get into the mindset that, oh, well, this is just a temporary space, so there's no point in decorating it. Or, there's no point in rearranging the furniture. Because I'm just here for a little while, so what's the point? Well, there's a huge point, and it's that it doesn't matter how temporary it is. Your home needs to feel comfortable and safe, and it needs to feel like you. So what can you do to make your current home bring you more happiness? This could be a number of things. This could be hanging up some wall art, or it could be painting that dresser that you got at Goodwill or off the side of the road. It could be buying a dish set instead of having a whole bunch of mismatched dishes in your kitchen. Whatever it is that would make you feel like your life is more together. You are worth having nice things. Those nice things don't have to be bought at Macy's or Restoration Hardware or some fancy-ass furniture place. It is possible to have nice things that are affordable. Make sure your place is tidy. Have a good system for laundry and for dishes. Get a bedding set that gets you excited about getting in bed each night. If there is a project around the house that you've been meaning to get to, make it a priority. You deserve to live somewhere where you're excited to come home and you're not dreading coming home. Because while, yes, our priority is to work towards our dream life, that doesn't mean that we should be ignoring the life that we're living in the meantime. It is just as important to make sure that our current lives are bringing us joy and happiness and peace. And I get it. Like, maybe you're living in a rental and you're like, I can't paint the walls, I can't do this and that. Well, go on YouTube or on Pinterest and look up like rental-friendly DIYs. There are so many things that you can do that will make a huge difference. Even if you're still living at your parents' house or you're living in your grandma's spare bedroom, there are things that you can do to make that space feel like yours. Go and do that. Dreaming is wonderful, and I promise you, you can have everything that you want in your life, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight. Like, it's going to take some time. You can't ignore your daily life. In the meantime, you just can't. So, figure out what you can do to your current living situation to bring it up a notch. I promise you that you'll feel better. All right, great job, everyone. Hopefully you have a better idea now of where you want to live and what you want to live in. It's totally okay if you're still scratching your head about some of these things, or if maybe you have even more questions now than before you started, especially if you want to move somewhere but you don't know where. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss next week's workshop. It's going to be all about discovering what your ideal physical health looks like. So I will see you soon, and in the meantime, stay dreamy. Oh, and also, bonus question, what's your dream car? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know. All right, bye guys.